Hello, hi, greetings. This is Sasha Casually Comics, and this is not the video I was originally planning on making. This is about Nort's Swimsuit Special 2023. Number one, as if there's going to be multiple, but we all know it's going to be one. They might do another swimsuit special, but it's not going to be Nort. Sorry, Nort Swimsuit Edition. Now, initially, I heard about this back in July when DC announced it, and it sounded like it might be a kind of fun reaction video. They showed some samples of some of the beach-going artwork and just like, oh, let's go through, look at some of the heroes on the beach. So I ended up picking up the issue for $5.99. And from there, everything kind of changed. I was going through it and looking at the images, you know, chuckling to myself at some of them or just forming commentary about what could be said about them, but just something wasn't sitting right. And another topic emerged that I kind of wanted to talk about. And that is that this swimsuit edition has strong cash grab vibes, but not in a good way, and let me elucidate what I mean by that. Now, of course, whenever something is released, the goal is, in theory, that it should earn some money. You want to earn something from putting it out there. And not every project you want to put the most effort into. So maybe you want to have something that's going to have a nice quick return. Say a swimsuit edition where you can put some art together, maybe utilize some older art, some new stuff, just really make something that's going to be easy for you, but hopefully appealing to fans. The thing with cash grabs is that there are levels. There's a way to do it in that you are still producing something that's gonna have a lot of value and that people are going to enjoy. And then there's the way to do it where you are throwing something together. And this falls more into the throwing something together category with a slight hint of predatorily playing on FOMO, just a teensy bit. So $5.99 is a little above average of the cost of a comic book time of recording because they've really crept up over the years. You are getting 48 pages. But the majority of those pages are the art. And at that point, it becomes worthy of noting that the majority of these are reused variant covers. Now, I will acknowledge that there is a world where that's still gonna be worth it for some people because maybe they don't have these variant covers. But there's also a world out there where people are gonna go into this expecting that they're going to be getting a lot of new art. And so if that's what you're expecting, that is not the case. You are getting a bunch of repurposed variants, although in the case of some of them, it appears that they were commissioned early on so that they could be used in something like this. But then the other factor comes in that a lot of these just aren't very dynamic or exciting. Most of them are nice. There are a lot of pretty ones that are competently done. There's the Aquaman one that has a very interesting fusion of classic kind of Aquaman, or well, 90s version Aquaman because we're going bearded, but also Jason Momoa, and he's kind of morphing. They're morphing them together. It's very interesting to look at. But just for me, I have to say, flipping through this, I started to get just kind of bad vibes. And a lot of that had to do with, there are two stories in this too. There's the new story, Baywatch, and then there is a reprint of a Midnighter and Apollo story called Out There, which initially I thought I'd read in a DC Pride anthology because it's like the two of them on a date on a beach. But no, it was actually from the DC Cybernetic Summer one-shot that they did in 2020 because they actually started doing the Prides in 2021. Let me get into what I mean by they're trying to play on FOMO, in that if you buy this, there's a centerfold, you know, because ooh, like Swimsuit Magazine, my angel is the centerfold type vibes. Yes, I know that song is referencing a different type of centerfold. And there are 4 random ones. And so that kind of creates a like, gotta catch them all, which again, isn't a bad marketing tactic. The idea of like, ooh, you wanna make sure you get Nort, or you wanna make sure that you get Batgirl. That's not a bad tactic. It's got a fun collectible vibe potentially, but then for $5.99 or more if you're not in the United States. At that point, it just kind of feels like you're milking people, because then if you go out and you're trying to get, you gotta collect them all. Let's say you manage to be like, just save all of the ones for me. And at that point, you've spent $20 and there's only one different page in each, or a couple, because there are some factoid sheets, fake interview, etc. Unless you're a massive collector, that's really not worth it. It just feels exploitative. I was gonna say exploity, and then I was like, well, there's a real word for that. Let's just use the real word. On top of that, you have the variant covers, the endless variant covers. And that's where you're also gonna find the vast majority of aggressive cheesecake, if that's what you're looking for. There are a lot of tactics that just reek of, please, we need extra money. Tactics like this, I think in the long run, are more harmful, and they also make things like this feel less special, because there's nothing wrong with an anthology issue. There's not even anything wrong with reprinting older stories. It was a thing that used to happen all the time. You'd have entire issues of entirely reprinted stories. Although when that used to happen decades ago, especially in the pre-internet era, that was a bit of a different thing, because you couldn't just go online and say look for the specific issues you were missing, or find all of them on some kind of digital archive, or yo-ho. So the reprinted format is a bit of a different animal now than it was back in the day. It may have been alleviated if the Baywatch story was a bit stronger, which it alas is not. It is very much a filler issue. It's one of those 5 ladies are hanging out on the beach when they're hangout, even though it's not even necessarily ladies you would assume would be hanging out. It's Black Canary, Vixen, Helena, Batgirl, and Poison Ivy. Yes, your fave girl crew. So right away there's a bit of a why, what, oh, okay. They've shown variations of this group before. It's kind of like a new Birds of Prey configuration, but again, it's just, would they all be hanging out? Just because you're on a team doesn't mean that everybody gets along and would want to hang out outside of work. But guess what? There's an oil pipeline running under this beach, and it's under attack by the Penguin. Why? Because the Penguin is the hotness, or was the hotness. They're trying to make him the hotness. They're doing that Tom King series that just started. They're supposed to be that HBO series they were gonna do spinning off of The Batman. We will see what happens with that. Time of recording, maybe you're watching it right now. So yeah, the ladies need to get on the beach and stop the Penguin. They gotta surf and ride some skidoos and say things like gnarly. The Penguin is also in beachwear, because, you know, fun. Because the title is Baywatch with a B-A-E, you have to have Helena do the run. Baywatch reference. And so they stop him, and he doesn't blow up the pipeline and ruin their beach day. The end. It's a filler story, and it doesn't really elevate this entire anthology outing. I guess basically the point that I'm convolutedly trying to make is that it's an excessive markup for what you're receiving, and that this would be a little fun thing, but not for the amount they're charging. I think that this should be less, even if it's more pages than your average comic, and then that could be a good gateway, I think, because it might make you excited, like, oh, I really liked this cover, or like maybe I'll check it out. I just think if it was more accessible price-wise, that would be a better play in the long run. The story is also aggressively attempting to be funny, to the point where it pushes some characters out of character. So that will be off-putting to some if the humor does not land or supplant that. Now, I want to reiterate, if you're a person who're like, no, I want all of the beach covers in one place, then this is for you. The one that I got actually had Nort. I have the Nort, the digital Nort. I don't know, am I just being a Grumposaurus Reximus? Or do you feel that this is on the kind of shadier, more is desperate, a bit excessive side of cash grab? Because there have been a lot more anthologies style books printed lately, because they're bigger, and then hence you can in theory charge more for them, but usually they're entirely full of stories and only a couple are reprinted. They've started to do more reprints lately, and they also are releasing art books. But again, there's a difference. This is kind of like a weird fusion in between the idea of just pure art book and anthology storybook. Maybe it's trying to marry the best of both worlds. I just don't feel like it fully gets there. Definitely not as fun as I thought it was gonna be when I first picked it up as a reaction style video idea, but I still wanted to do something with it, because if I make a video about it, I can still write it off. YouTuber slash TikTok slash content creator secret. It's not. If you do anything where you work for yourself in any way and you buy something, write that off. That was a business expense. But I know what you wanna know. Is the Nort centerfold worth it? Is it worth it for Nort? No, I almost kind of wish that the Nort centerfold were transferred over to the Green Lantern series that they're doing, because it would be a good way to introduce people who are reading Green Lantern to potentially new Green Lanterns who they're not as familiar with, because with Nort centerfold comes a Nort history, kinda. Again, it's very much trying to play into the humorous tone this issue is looking to have, but it could be slightly de-Zanified for Green Lantern. And that part I did appreciate. I did like that there was a whole like, here's Nort, even though they only picked him for the Sports Illustrated joke. Was it worth the pun? Was it? And even just for playing on the Swimsuit Edition nostalgia, it feels weird because the energy surrounding Swimsuit Editions in the 2020s is very different than it was when, at least I assume that it was, I was not there when they ran the original swimsuit runs, but the energy seems different. Let me know if you were there for both. What was the vibe around the original swimsuits? Did it have the exact same, were you thinking the exact same thing? Like, wow, what is this cash grab? I will say the Nort character sheet was fun. The faux interview in Nort's voice is a bit much, but it is one of the funner elements to the book, and it does feel like you're getting a bit extra. Still not $6 worth of extra, but still. The reprinted story is stronger than Baywatch, but it does have a similar plot with a beach day interrupted by a villain attack, but it has a bit more meat. At least I believe that Apollo and Midnighter really want to spend time together. I think if you're a lover of art books and you're a person who really actually likes to like flip through them, you might get a bit more out of this. I'm not sure how much collector's value, if you're a collector, that this will have on the resale market. I know that sometimes there's a view of like comics can be an investment, and they can be, but you need to know what you're doing in that kind of realm, and there's a lot of bad advice out there as it pertains to that, and sometimes it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh, this is a novelty, or there's, oh look, there's 4 special ones and so it's going to be worth so much, but that's not always the case. So just be careful if you're playing that game. Anyway, this was very impromptu. I showed a bunch of the art throughout this to, I guess, kind of make my rambling more bearable, but I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill? Do you think it's no big deal? I mean, no one's got a gun to your head making you buy the Nort Swimsuit Edition. Or do you think that, yeah, it doesn't have the best vibes? Not fun cash grab. A cash grab can be fun. I've seen fun cash grabs. It can be done. I want to hear what you thought. Did you pick it up and do you have the completely different opinion? You love it. Are you actually a really big fan of the Baywatch story and you feel that they should be hanging out? I want to hear your thoughts because I know that the rising cost of comics is a bit of a hot button issue, so I want to hear where you're at with it. I also want to especially hear from you if you've been collecting a long time, if you've fallen off, if you're just getting in, because I know I have people who are just at various points in their comic journeys watching this channel, so I want to hear from all of you. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. I hope that at some point you get to have a fun day on a beach if that's your thing, and we're gonna be back with more videos about various topics. Thanks so much for taking some of your day spent discussing comics with me, and I guess listening to me ramble. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you again soon. Did I introduce myself? I'm Sash, and this was Casually Comics if I didn't, and yeah, bye-bye.